What's up, YouTube? It's Carolina Calvin coming back to you with another video. In this video, I said I was gonna do it. I got my boy Mitch here. MG couldn't make it. Probably some other time we will talk about it. Or we'll talk about it with him. But this video, we're talking about Avengers Infinity War. Spoilers. If you haven't seen Infinity War, one, what are you doing? Two, you can go watch my non-spoiler review. And I'm pretty vague. Honestly, I was probably too vague in the video. But in this video, we're gonna talk about pretty much spoilers, because just about the whole movie is a spoiler, and Easter eggs, and the post-credit scene, of course. And I'm gonna get Mitch's thoughts, where he ranks this movie, kind of put him on the spot with that, and I guess a rating scale of 1 to 10, what he ranks the movie just as a whole. Now, starting out, the movie started out on a dark, like really dark tone. You see pretty much the end of Thor Ragnarok, which it's pretty much like right after that when Thanos shows up. You see a bunch of Asgardians pretty much dead. You see Thor, Loki, and pretty much Thanos. They're in there just finishing off the ones that didn't die. You see, during this scene, during the scene, Hulk gets beat down, and you seen the movie. You don't see Hulk again from this moment. But Heimdall dies. Idris Elba. Tom Hiddleston's Loki. Loki dies as well. And of course, you blow up the entire ship. Now, the big question coming out of this: where are like Valkyrie? Some of the other people that was there at the end of Thor Ragnarok. They're probably going to be in Avengers 4. He's probably going to meet up with them at some point. But I thought this was a really good start to the movie. This is the first time we got to see Thanos and any of the people with him do anything. You had Ebony Maw out there, who I liked him. I liked Ebony Maw. I liked those are pretty much his children. That's what essentially what he calls them. Those ones he trained from a young age to pretty much be killing machines. But I thought this was a great start to the movie. Start on a dark tone. Ship blows up, and that's when Thor meets the Guardians of the Galaxy. What did you think about this scene, just to start out the movie?
Yeah, I think this scene basically set the tone for the entire movie, like you brought up, because it kind of plays into the motivations of Thor in the entire movie. Mm-hmm. Obviously, they have the whole storyline and the thread throughout the film where it's like Thor, his brother dies, one of his best friends dies, and basically Thor is going throughout the entire movie talking about his loss and basically his motivations as a character to why he wants to kill Thanos. And so that basically sets Thor off on a journey. But obviously, it's a completely different take and turn for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We've never seen even a scene like this at an end of a movie. So it was completely set the tone from the very beginning, saying this is a different movie from any other Avengers movie, whatever Thor movie, whatever movie you have seen in the past from Marvel. This is a completely different film. And I loved it all the way through because it said basically that one scene where they're just like, to Thanos, they're like, oh, just let him have his fun. It's like, that's the Hulk. Like, the guy's just going to have fun with the Hulk, and then he just beats the crap out of the Hulk. Like you said, we don't see the Hulk again. So we set the tone for the Hulk, we set the tone for Thor, and we set the tone for Thanos. So 3 important characters in this movie, especially Thor and Thanos. We see just an awesome scene between the 3 of them. And then, like you said, Hulk goes off to Earth and sets the pace for the movie. But yeah, this just set the tone for the entire film and set the tone for the main character. And one thing that I took away from this movie is they didn't even have to name this Infinity War or Avengers Infinity War. They could just name it Thanos.
Yeah, the movie definitely was. If you go back to the comics, it's like a combination of Infinity Gauntlet and a little bit of an Infinity War comic, because Infinity Gauntlet was just about him getting the gems. Because you see during the beginning of the movie, he already had one gem. He destroyed, I believe, Xandar to get the power gem. Then as the movie goes, he assembles all the other gems. So it reminds me of that comic. Obviously different, but it's definitely a story about him that he feels justified in pretty much wiping out half of the universe. He feels though he's justified that he's pretty much doing population control. He's saving he's killing off half the universe to save the other half.
Yeah,
so
and we'll see that later. We'll see that later in the movie, and that's kind of like his motivation, which, in my opinion, makes him a very compelling villain. But with the beginning scene, I just like the entire movie. They really committed to Thanos as the main character, and I think it's hard to outshine some characters that we've seen for multiple films now, like the Iron Mans and the Thors and Hulk and everybody, but he really was the centerpiece of this movie, and I think he was the most enjoyable part of it for sure.
Oh, definitely. Josh Brolin was great as Thanos. He did a really good job.
Really good.
Yeah. But I was honestly surprised that Loki. I had the feeling Loki was gonna get killed off. But that early,
we talked about it before.
That early, I felt as though that was definitely a surprise to see him get killed off that early. But definitely, like, I'm looking at it like, wow, yeah, they got him, they killed him off already. So that was to give Thor his motivation right there.
Exactly, right? So like, I felt like it. At the same time, you said it was pretty early to kill someone, but then when you look at it from the perspective of watching the movie, you're like, oh, well, that makes sense because they needed to give Thor like basically the motivation to do what he did in the movie. So it makes sense. It's just like that Loki's a big character in this universe.
Yeah.
Like I feel like a lot of people are just gonna kind of be like, whatever. It's a former villain, but really Loki was a huge part of not only the Thor films but the biggest movie to date in Avengers, and he was basically looked at as the best villain in the entire universe for a long time, at least until Black Panther, I think a lot of people would say, and I feel like a lot of people would still say he's in that conversation. And then I just think he's been a huge part of the universe, and it's kind of an interesting way to see him go. I don't know, did you like the way he kind of died? I felt like I would have liked to maybe seen a better heroic death for him, but it is what it is. I mean, I can't complain.
I think I kind of like that. They didn't kind of like exaggerate it, outside of Thanos just like making him suffer. I like that they didn't exaggerate it, because he tried to stab Thanos.
He did.
He tried to stab Thanos, but then he just got choked out and just got tossed aside. Like, and then we was on to the next scene. It was like, yeah, that happened. Pretty much exactly how it went.
Just putting a lot of these scenes were just in there to put over the fact that Thanos is strong.
Yeah, he was a powerhouse, because we like in terms of the movie universe, we didn't see him do anything yet. Like we saw him talk, literally saw him, but we never seen him fight or do anything like that. And then just him beating up Hulk, killing Loki with one hand, like that was just to show, like, okay, yeah, that the other characters are in for one, just especially for the people who don't know much about Thanos.
Bringing up Hulk, did you like the direction they took Hulk in this movie?
Not necessarily. I kind of wish they would got to a point where you did see him again, at least at the end. I mean, he probably still gets beat up, but I thought you should at least saw him again at the end, because if you remember the trailers show. They show Hulk running behind them. That never happens. That never happens in the movie.
That's true. Yeah.
So that was one of those things that was just for the trailer. That was him in the Hulk Buster, I believe. Like, I think it was like the same thing. That was him in the
Yeah,
Hulk
I
Buster.
wonder if they tried, like, maybe the writing, maybe one way they had it where Hulk came back and one way they didn't, but
yeah,
there's pros and cons to it. I feel like it's going to pay off in the long run, because obviously Hulk's going to be a huge part of the next movie. Mm-hmm. So I think we're all going to be like, yeah, we got enough of Hulk in this movie where we didn't miss him too much in the first one. And it's kind of like a building story arc for the next movie about the whole Thanos. The whole story to me seems like Hulk doesn't want to come out because he got his ass beat. It's basically what it seems like. So I think that's just Mark Ruffalo, I think, was really good in the movie in terms of the comedy stuff. They gave him a lot of that. So I don't know. at the same time, it did sort of annoy me just to be like, Hulk needs to be there. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, the story is kind of interesting, and they've never really done this before, so we'll see where it goes.
After that, can't remember exactly what happens, but I guess we kind of skip around. Of course, Thor meets the
Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange.
Oh, sorry, Hulk meets Doctor Strange and Iron Man.
Because right after that, he fought. Heimdall used the Bifrost to transport on Earth, obviously to tell him that Thanos is coming, because they know there's 2 gems on Earth.
Yeah.
So, he shows up at Doctor Strange, so he knew that he was sending him. He was sending him the person that they know could help. Then they go see. Then of course Tony Stark comes into the picture, and it was interesting to see Doctor Strange and Tony Stark interact, because in the comics they always butted heads, and the reasoning for it was one was a magic user, one only believed in science. He didn't believe in magic or using magic. So they always butted heads in the comics, and you kind of saw they butted heads a lot in this movie. Mm-hmm. And I thought that,
but there was like that mutual respect there, especially towards the end of the movie, which you would see.
Yeah, there was that, and I think what's the word I want to use? I would say kind of like the chemistry between the characters we haven't seen on screen together in any of these movies, I thought was really well done.
And it's arguably the 2 strongest actors.
Yeah, and I thought they were really good in this movie. So that leads to the scene in New York, which I really like that scene. That's when they're about to fight some of Thanos' children, and you saw Tony was using pretty much the nano suit. If you remember from the comics, he used that. And you see later in the movie that suit can do a lot. And, you see that suit.
Sweet.
Yeah. And you see Doctor Strange is fighting Ebony Maw. This round where Hulk is trying to, Bruce Banner's trying to transform the Hulk. And it's a great fight scene. It was one of the first big fight scenes that we got in the movie. Of course, Doctor Strange gets captured. Spider-Man eventually shows up. They kind of skip to him. He sees pretty much the ship in the sky, and he shows up. This is around time Doctor Strange gets captured.
That's also the Stan Lee part.
Yep, because he was the bus driver.
Yeah,
that was a way to put him in there. But
you guys never seen a spaceship before?
I was wondering at what point he's gonna be in the movie. He's gonna be. They're gonna have him as someone. But I don't know. I enjoyed that scene. I felt as though it was the first big action scene, and I think it was really well done.
Yeah, I think what this scene gave us was sort of that Avengers feel from the first movie, where it was like these new characters meeting each other for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And I sort of got that same feeling, like, oh, this is cool, like, yeah. Like, just a cool feeling to see these guys interact. But I think bringing back the Iron Man Doctor Strange relationship this was probably the most important dynamic in the entire film, because as we'll talk about, the most important scene in the entire movie is probably when Doctor Strange goes through all those different situations where the 14 million, however many that they could have possibly won, and it ends up only being one time that they can actually win this Infinity War against Thanos. And that whole decision and relationship between Tony Stark and Doctor Strange, that scene where he decides to basically sacrifice himself pretty much and the stone for Tony Stark, plays basically the biggest factor into the next movie for what happened at the end of this movie going into the next movie, for Tony Stark to basically take charge and lead the team into next movie. So that's a huge relationship in this movie, and I think they did a really good job of developing it from sort of this awkward stage where they were making jokes back and forth with each other, and you could kind of see their intellects going back and forth because they're two very smart guys trying to outdo each other. But definitely probably the 2 strongest actors, like I said, and probably my favorite part of the movie, probably favorite relationship in the movie, was those two kind of going back and forth and trying to figure out where it was going to go. So that was really important. And then going back to the Spider-Man introduction, that was pretty cool. Just seeing him back with Tony. A couple of the jokes there was good. We actually got to see Spider-Man swinging in New York for the first time.
Yep. Yeah, that was definitely one thing.
That was interesting.
That was also around the time, because that was around the time Doctor Strange got captured. We saw the Iron Spider suit, so he already had it.
Yep.
He already had that prepared just in case the kid ever needed it. So he had the Iron Spider suit, which was great. That was pretty much what he used throughout the movie. Whenever you did see him, and I thought one of the villains, I thought they killed off too quick. I don't necessarily think they should have killed off at least all of Thanos' children. Ebony Maw, I liked him, and he was the first to get killed off. And this is around
honestly,
the time.
I think they did the right thing, because you don't want it to be too one-sided.
I'm saying like some of them could have been, but it's still the vote's still out on him actually being dead. More so than the other ones, we saw them get blown up, but the vote's still out. We saw him flying out in space. Losing no
He might not be dead though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He might not be dead. So he's the one where like the vote's out on him being dead.
And he was definitely the strongest of all of them.
Yeah, he had because in the comics he doesn't have. If I remember correctly, he doesn't have those powers. His powers were like. He could persuade people to do things. Like he had turned, because in the comics he turned Doctor Strange against the Avengers, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
But of course,
and he was just the right amount of irritating in the movie too.
Yeah, they gave him more power. Of course, to make him more powerful, he is in there fighting Doctor Strange. He is in there fighting Spider-Man and Iron Man. So they had to give him more powers than just that. And I thought it worked out pretty good. So that was the scene where around the time they were trying to save Doctor Strange. So it was Iron Man, it was Spider-Man, and I thought that scene was really good. And okay, I'll get into the negatives afterwards. Some of the things I could say probably didn't like, but where does it go to? It goes to the Guardians. Right after that's around the time Thor meets the Guardians. I mean, you kind of see the movie kind of shift in tone,
just a really small thing when they start playing Rubber Band Man.
Yeah, so
that was just great,
and
I just loved that.
It felt like the Guardians movie, so they were still able to, flip the tone from the beginning. Like I said, it starts out with a darker tone with all those people dying. Then we got the fight scene, you got Doctor Strange getting captured, still somewhat dark. Then you go into that tone, which is more of like, the Guardians tone. You know how that tone is in that movie. And one thing, obviously a lot of people have said this, one thing you got to give them credit for is the fact that how they were able to incorporate all these characters.
Yeah,
and
that's the biggest plus.
And everyone felt like, got screen time. Some less than others, obviously. But you didn't feel as though, oh man, that person wasn't on screen at all. Like they didn't get to say anything, they didn't get to do anything. You can't really say that. Maybe you could say like Nick Fury.
Some did more than others.
Yeah, some did more. Like Thor probably did the most out of just about anyone.
Yeah, like you could say Thor and Iron Man did the most.
Yeah.
Doctor Strange was a lot. Guardians did a lot. I think some people might have been a little bit disappointed with how much Black Panther and Captain America did. But I mean, they still had their spots to shine. And I didn't think that they were like huge, like they weren't important enough to the plot itself. Like the other characters were more important to the actual story of Thanos and what was happening than, and probably setting up for the next movie as well, than to the actual movie. So they were just in there more for the characters to be in there and just showing off their spots. And they still had spots like in battle and stuff. But I think that would probably be the only negatives in terms of characters, would be probably people talking about Cap and Black Panther.
Oh, the ones I'll agree with. I don't agree with Black Panther. Why? Because he wasn't gonna leave. Like he's not gonna leave Wakanda. They essentially came to him, and Wakanda became a very important place because
Yeah.
It was probably it's the most protected city in the world. It's the most protected city.
And I thought that was very smart the way they did that.
Yeah. So like I think that was a good thing to save them for the huge battle, just because that's where they could. That's where they felt as though they could make their
And
last stand.
it would have been dumb if they would have had it in New York again or somewhere like that, right? Because they've learned, like, they have to learn at a certain point. They had the Avengers battle, and they've learned from that. They had the Ultron battle. They've learned from that. They've had the Civil War stuff. So, like, obviously they need to learn throughout each movie to actually decide, because there's been consequences of these things every time. So the consequence this time is that we've learned, and now we're going to put it in Wakanda, a place where most of the world doesn't even know, really it exists, and it's the most protected area. So the Avengers actually learned from that perspective of, let's not put it on a grand scale where as many people as possible can get injured.
Yeah, and that's what, because I heard people complain like, a lot of people like, I guess just like civilians who weren't fighting didn't get hurt. Well, look at where it took place at. I can already assume people in the earlier New York scene. Pretty sure people got hurt in that particular scene.
Yeah.
But the Wakanda scene, Wakanda's isolated. Wakanda's isolated from any other place, even in Africa itself. So they had a lot of room to fight, and the fight never really extended beyond that, because what they wanted to get was there. They're not gonna go somewhere else. What they want, their focus was just on Wakanda, trying to get the Mind Stone from Vision. But I don't think we don't have to break it down scene for scene.
Yeah, they basically had, the way to best describe it is they basically had three different things going on. They had the Black Panther, Captain America, Vision, and all that stuff going on. They had the Guardians and Thor stuff, and then they had the Iron Man, Doctor Strange, Spider-Man stuff.
Yep, which eventually led to Star-Lord. Well, before we talk about that, gotta bring up the Gamora one.
That was a huge arc throughout the movie too.
Yeah, they of course, when they met up with Thor, they split up. It was Gamora, Drax, Star-Lord. The lead chick's name is Mantis.
Mantis, yeah.
And Gamora. They split up to go find the Reality Stone, which that's where Thor told them that's where they hid it at. They called it Nowhere. The Collector had it, but when they get there, they come to find out Thanos has it already, and he essentially reality bends to where she thinks she kills him, and it was all a ruse. And before that, she knew where the Soul Stone was at, because her entire purpose to go with the Guardians was to find out the location of the Soul Stone for Thanos. Of course, all that changed. She eventually became part of the team. And she tells Star-Lord before that I know its location, so you're gonna have to kill me, so I won't tell you its location. Of course, Thanos. Once we get to that scene, Star-Lord's about to try to kill her. Thanos pretty much reality bends, turns his gun, starts shooting out bubbles, and he teleports away, which leads to the Gamora Thanos arc, which kind of it's when it starts to around the time where she gets captured. It's when the time it starts to they start to, what do I want to say, kind of he justifies why he's doing what he's doing to her. And it kind of goes into how they met when she was young. He pretty much wiped out all the people on her planet. And he even justified that by saying, oh, well, you were poor, you were eating scraps, scrounging for money, for food and stuff like that. I saved you. So he even tried to justify wiping out most of another civilization. It was just what he does.
He justifies everything by saying he's saving people.
Yeah. And of course, it leads to, when they go up to Nebula, she's pretty much being tortured, and she eventually gives the location of the Soul Stone. Obviously not knowing at the time how to actually get the Soul Stone. So, of course, they go over to the planet. I cannot remember the name of it right now.
Nowhere?
No, the place where the Soul Stone's at. That's called something else. I'm sorry, I cannot remember the name of it is right now. But one huge surprise is, I guess, the Easter egg kind of. We see Red Skull.
Yeah.
Like
Man, the first time I saw it, because I've seen it twice now.
Yeah.
I was like, "Yo, that's like my favorite." That's probably my favorite villain that never showed up after that one movie.
Now we see where he went.
Now we see where he went, which is the most random place he could have possibly went.
He's pretty much the guardian, because we knew he never died because that was just the Space Stone. So the Space Stone clearly teleported him somewhere else. We just assumed that, oh man, they just forgot about him. They ain't gonna do nothing else with him.
And Calvin, I think we can also draw conclusions to what's gonna happen in the next movie between him and Cap.
That's if he even becomes a part of the movie.
I think he will.
Because honestly,
I don't think you could just throw him in there in this movie and not have him in the next one.
Well, I think honestly why they showed him is to show, okay, this is what happened to him since Cap 1. This is where he's been all these years.
Yeah, I want to see him. Can I just say I want to see him in the next movie? And
I honestly thought they should have used him more because one of how big of a villain he is. I mean, he controls Hydra. He's Cap's biggest villain. And, Hugo Weaving, I felt as though did a good job in that role in the first Captain America movie. That's why I want to see him again.
I think it's actually played by somebody else in this movie.
Yeah, I think so. Well,
even though he was really good. I'm trying to look at there's like 1 million people on this list. I'm trying to look.
We probably have to search that specifically. But I thought that was a huge surprise. But once they get there, he tells them how to get the stone. They're like at a cliff, and he tells them that you have to make a huge sacrifice.
Ross Marquand.
Oh, so that's a different guy. Okay, yeah. That's a different guy. He kind of sounds like the guy from the cartoon. If you watched the most recent cartoon, he sounds like him. Which could be the same guy. But once they get to the cliff, he tells them that you have to make a huge sacrifice to someone you love, and pretty much the soul for a soul to get the Soul Stone. Okay, because it's the first time we've seen the Soul Stone. None of the other movies have the Soul Stone. I figured they were gonna save it for this movie. But Gamora's like, "Oh, you don't love anyone." And he looks at her, and
I thought this was really well done. Like, they actually made you believe that he did love her.
Probably to a degree, but it was not the love you think it is. It's in an insane. It's in an insane way. Yeah, and he looks at her, throws her off, and then he kind of he wakes up in like a lake, and he has a soul stone in his hand, and that's when it jumps back to Earth. Then I believe it's around the time we see Vision and Scarlet Witch. They're pretty much. And obviously, we're skipping around. We're probably missing some parts, but
what did you think of that whole relationship throughout the movie? I felt like at the beginning of it, really I was like, it's a little bit of a jump, because really the only scene we saw them sort of in a relationship mode was when they were making like that paprika or whatever.
Yeah, Civil War,
in Civil War, that was it.
Yep.
And really, they just jumped to that conclusion where they were, I guess, a couple. So they did have to do a lot of work there in this movie to make it sort of believable that they really were like in love and stuff. But I think they did a good job. It was strong acting.
Yeah.
But Scarlet Witch ended up being a huge part of this movie, which coming in I did not expect.
Yep. And it kind of goes to, I guess, how they pretty much built a relationship over time. And then, of course, they see what happens in New York. They believe Tony Stark to be dead. Of course, we know what he's doing in the movie. And that's when he just gets randomly attacked, because Vision was about to go help them. He was about to go to New York and stuff. And that's when he pretty much gets impaled. And at that point, he was never really 100% throughout the entire movie, despite him having one of the Infinity Stones. He never really got to 100% to really be able to help them. The whole point, at that point, it became really about protecting him, protecting the stone for the most part. And this is around the time, big battle ensues. Vision, Scarlet Witch, they're fighting two of Thanos' children. And really good fight scene. Of course, Captain America, Falcon.
That was awesome.
And Black Widow come to help them, pretty much, come to save their ass. And I thought that scene was pretty good. Now I agree with some people. Cap wasn't in the movie as much as he should have been.
He's going to be in a lot of the next one.
But yeah, of course he is. But I get why. Obviously he's hiding. So a big reason Black Widow changed her hair color. They're fugitives, as they pointed out early in the movie when you see War Machine. They're clearly they're fugitives. So of course they're not just going to be out there right in the open just so they can get captured. They showed up exactly when they needed to, so they've been completely off the grid. So it kind of makes sense why they didn't show up in places like New York and stuff like that. That's obvious. So I felt as though that scene was really good.
I just liked, again, the small thing where they shifted the music and shifted the tone when they came in and then started fighting. That was cool.
Yeah. Then it of course goes probably it goes around where just Iron Man, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, they meet the other some of the other Guardians members, and that's when they meet him on Titan, which probably some of the best stuff in the movie, the stuff that happened on Titan, I would say.
Yeah. Best fight scene.
Yeah, because this is when because at first they start fighting each other, and thinking that one is that they're working for Ultron. Come to find out that of course they're pretty much on the same side. And then after Thanos gets the Soul Stone, he shows up there back on Titan, of course, to get the Time Stone. Big battle ensues. Everybody's going at Thanos. That's when we see even Doctor Strange was able to do a lot, and you see they use a lot of their powers to different abilities to work together.
Yeah. What was your favorite combination there? I really liked the
Spider-Man Doctor Strange.
The Spider-Man Doctor Strange, where he's magic with a kick.
Yeah, he just kept sending them through portals and stuff like that. I thought that was really good.
And Star-Lord was pretty cool too. How they had him jumping over, jumping on each little magic, whatever you call it, but jumping on there and then shooting Thanos.
Yeah.
The Iron Man scene though.
When he was just fighting them one-on-one, because they almost that
was my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah, that was really good because it had a gas moment for everyone.
I thought the first time, because again I've seen it twice now, I thought the first time he was gonna die, and I was throughout these movies, Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr., Tony Stark's probably been my favorite character. So I was no, they can't kill Tony Stark, and getting everybody at that moment, everybody's speechless, kind of gasping for a moment there, and looks like he's gonna die. The whole scene in the trailers where it's I hope they remember you and stuff, and it's kind of interesting that Thanos actually knew who he was.
Mm-hmm.
But
he told him.
I thought that was
even
if he were to die there, that would have been a respectable way for him to go out, just because of
he went out fighting.
Yeah, he went out fighting. He went out hand to hand, and he actually did probably the best of anybody in the entire movie.
I would say,
other than Thor.
I would say Thor. I don't know. Thor did impale him with the axe. But yeah, like I said, that was definitely one of the better scenes, if not the best scene in the entire movie. And one important scene is when you see Doctor Strange, kind of you see the bands around the green bands. He's just using the Time Stone, and he sees. He's pretty much looking at every possible future. And that kind of leads to exactly how the battle ends on Titan. Mm-hmm. You can see that that's a big reason why he never in that fight, he never used the Time Stone. He never used the Time Stone because
he on purposely knew he had to lose.
He probably saw a future where he does use it and they still lose. Because at that point in time, Thanos already had 4 stones. Yeah, he already had 4 of the stones.
Yeah.
So probably putting him in a time loop wouldn't have worked. With the reality stones, he saw all the things he could do with it.
There was some sort of combination where he knew he had to give him the time stone, and he also knew that he had to save Iron Man.
Yeah, because he knew Iron Man would be important, and of course, what's going to happen in the next movie. He knew he wouldn't be around. That's why he was like, it pretty much had to be done.
He basically sacrificed himself.
Yeah, because he knew there was almost nothing stopping Thanos from getting all the gems. Him using the time stone wasn't going to work. So by giving him gems, essentially by losing the battle, they can win the war. That's essentially how probably the future that he did see, and that he didn't see it for certain, but it was the only way. But so I thought setting up all that. The fight scene with that, and then all the characters. You had Star-Lord, Doctor Strange, and Tony Stark, who had when they were like trying to come up with the plan.
Your plan sucks. If I do the plan, it might be good.
I thought that was really good, just seeing those characters. Like I said, the first time seeing those characters really interact.
And some of the best parts of it was just like off screen or like saying nothing. Like the moment where Tony was just like looking at them like, what? Like who are these guys? Like these guys are a bunch of idiots. And then Spider-Man, when he's talking to Star-Lord about what's the movie?
I can't remember. I do remember that. Oh, with Star-Lord, and then these kind of goes into some of the jokes. And one thing I will say about like the humor that I didn't point out in my other video is I felt that the humor with these movies is always hit or miss, and for most movies is always hit or miss. And we've me, Mitch, and MG in the past have criticized the humor. Too much of it. Some of it's really cringy. I felt as though there was some bad humor, but that was some really good humor.
And it was timely. Like it wasn't the biggest thing for me with the humor in these movies is like when do they do them and like how is it done? Like if you're doing it right in the middle of a fight scene, like it doesn't make sense.
It makes sense with certain characters. Like Spider-Man,
I guess,
but like Iron Man, it makes Star-Lord. It makes sense for those characters because that's what they do.
Yeah,
it makes sense. Like, okay, if it's someone like Cap or Black Widow, some of these some of the more serious characters, Black Panther,
their character well.
Like it would seem weird if it was them, but not the characters I think that did most of it, because most of the jokes came from Iron Man, Star-Lord, Spider-Man, that I already mentioned Star-Lord. Most of it, you saw Drax. It came, that was a lot that came from Drax. That was, like I said, hit or miss. He had some good ones, he had some bad ones. Yeah.
But the way that they did the comedy, and I feel like the Russo brothers have just been like really good with this, is because they know what type of jokes and what type of comedy works with what character.
Yeah.
As like Drax is like standing there with chips, pretending like he's standing still.
Mm-hmm. Or
like that's exactly what he would do. Or like the Spider-Man jokes in the battle, like magic with a kick, or like Captain America saying "I'm Steve Rogers" after Groot says "I'm Groot."
He didn't understand.
That was funny.
Or Thor kept calling him Rocket Raccoon. He called him a rabbit.
That was funny. I always kept laughing when that happened.
Because he didn't know what a damn raccoon was. He didn't know what a raccoon was. They don't have raccoons on Asgard.
I thought Thor was really funny in the movie. Like that one moment where he's like, yeah, I took Groot in school or whatever as an elective. I was like, what?
But
yeah.
I felt so the humor that came from Thor was always in downtime moments where they're just talking. Like you first meet the Guardians, that's where it really came in at. And speaking to Star-Lord, that's what Star-Lord's gonna. He's gonna say a lot of sarcastic stuff. He's gonna say a lot of jokes. It's just the character, who the character is.
Yeah, the whole stuff when they first meet him is pretty funny too.
Yeah, and when Thor needed to get serious, he got serious, which of course led to the scene where he literally goes to the forge where his hammer was made, and he goes to get Stormbringer, which if you don't know, Stormbringer is the weapon of Beta Ray Bill. Beta Ray Bill is like the horse-looking guy. You can easily like look him up, but he essentially has like the same. He essentially has the same weapon as Thor. See, when I heard them say axe, I thought they were going with it's a weapon called Jabba Horns, purely an axe. But you know they didn't go with that. But Stormbringer's kind of is the nod to Beta Ray Bill. It's also a weapon that Thor has had in like different comics written by different people where he did have a different weapon. They still call it Mjolnir, but it looks like Stormbringer. Then of course they made Stormbringer Beta Ray Bill's weapon in the 616 in the comics. But you saw him. He was gonna do whatever it takes to get that new weapon. He's gonna do whatever.
Yeah,
it takes.
he even said, I think, facing him without this is suicide.
Yep. And he was, they got the forge restarted, and he literally took on the full force of a star to get the forge started. So now, Thor essentially he essentially had got an upgrade with, of course, getting this new hammer, which obviously is just it's all movie the movie thing, but now he can open the Bifrost whenever he wants.
And that led to a funny moment with Hulk where he's like, "Oh, you're all screwed now."
Yeah, yeah, but
So do you think Thor is gonna be the one? Like, this is what I was talking about with a couple of my friends too. After I first saw it, was like, do you think that Thor is gonna be the one to kill him then? Or do you think it's going to be like a combination of them? Or do you think it's going to be like someone sacrificing themselves to kill him or something?
I think it's going to be some people sacrificing themselves. I think they're going to make Captain Marvel a big deal.
Yep.
They're going to make
Which
her a
was
big deal.
in the end credits.
That was the post credits thing where you see right before Nick Fury. This is after. Well, before we get to that. Before we get to that. Right when Thor gets, because this concludes like the scene on Titan, Thanos gets the time gem. Of course, he already knows where his children are, when they're fighting in Wakanda. He uses Space Gem, he teleports to Wakanda, and this is around time the battles, the huge battles going on. You got a bunch of people from Wakanda. You got Black Panther. You got pretty much all the tribes pretty much working together. Cap. We see Winter Soldier, who now goes by White Wolf. If you remember in the comic, he has a vibranium arm now, and you see them getting ready for the big battle to pretty much protect Vision. They got, of course, the dome shield, and I thought it was when she told him. I don't know why I thought that was a good dialogue. She told him we have lots of blood, and he just saw a bunch of guys just rushing at the shield. I'm
like, they're not going to take on all those people.
Yeah, they took on a good amount of them though.
Yeah, they did.
They took on a good amount of them.
What did you think of? I thought that Cap scene where he was fighting Thanos was going to be a lot bigger part of the movie.
A lot of people thought he was going to die in that scene.
Yeah, but I guess it just, I don't know. It was still a cool scene. It
didn't end the way people were like, oh, they see him, like, Thanos wasn't even trying. He just like hit him with a right hook, and it was done with that.
Yeah.
Like,
I thought there were some good combinations though, like even that, like another small thing where like Black Panther and Cap are all like sprinting ahead of everybody else.
Oh, they run like a 1.8 on the 40 time.
Yeah, that was cool. And then seeing all the girls like work together, that was a good spot. Yeah, I thought like all in that battle, like everybody kind of got a moment, except Hulk was getting his ass kicked.
Yeah, he was pretty much using the Hulk Buster. I really wanted to see Hulk again, but I understand we're going to see him probably in the next one. I still want to see him in a big battle like that with everything going on. I wanted to see Hulk in that. Kind of disappointed that you don't.
So what do you think? Nice after like he snaps his fingers, half the population is gone. They get all the original members there. Yeah. So the next movie is going to be like all the original members. I think it's all the original members, maybe plus one or two. Then they're going to have Captain Marvel, I'm guessing Hawkeye is gonna come. I guess.
Yeah.
And Valkyrie, you said possibly.
I see her because she was a big part of Thor Ragnarok. A lot of people liked her. I think she's definitely gonna be back. She's clearly a character that can fight. I mean, she's an Asgardian, so of course she can fight. You're gonna see Nebula because she was the only person that was there with Iron Man. So how is he gonna get back to Earth? So she's probably gonna help him get back to Earth. Who else? I think Ant-Man's gonna be.
Yes, Ant-Man.
Don't really care about him, but I think he's gonna be there. We mentioned Captain Marvel. I think Wong, who was the guy, is Doctor Strange's like mentor, friend, and stuff like that. He's gonna be there. He's gonna feel like that magic role for him. Mm-hmm. There was someone else I was thinking of that I left out. One thing I think will happen.
I kind of wish that Fury was there though.
I know he's got. I thought it should have been just like Maria Hill gets the lead and he gets to stay around. So that way he could be a part of the next one.
He could reform the team.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that would have been cool, but
Rocket's still gonna be there. He didn't get deleted.
Yeah. Do you think that was the right choice?
Yeah. Especially once because he's gonna be distraught after the group.
And actually, we didn't talk about this. What did you think of Star-Lord being the one to kind of be the reason why they lose? Because he basically snaps on Thanos and then like starts punching him in the face.
I mean, like watching the movie, you're like, man, you idiot.
But it does make sense why he would do it, though.
Yeah, it does. But like just looking at the movie, like you idiot.
And you feel like he would have been kind of not necessarily the most immature, but like the least aware of the consequences, because like Iron Man's obviously not going to do that. He's like been around too long and faced too many people.
Same with Strange.
Same with Strange. Is too like unless Spider-Man, but it wouldn't really make sense.
Because they because Star-Lord and Gamora and everything, because it's already really close to Thanos, because of course she was raised by Thanos, so it's already really close. And of course, to find out that just pissed them off even more. A lot of them, this is their first time even hearing about Thanos. Like pretty much that day, that was the first time really hearing anything about Thanos. But Star-Lord knew about him, knew how evil he was the entire time. So I think that would that just compounded on top of that and just pissed him off. And plus, he already seems like a guy that really can't control his emotions anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that was a big moment, though.
But I think for the next one, honestly, because characters I think are permanent. Honestly, want to say Vision is.
Yeah, Vision is. I think all the people that were dead before that, where they fade away, is dead.
Yeah.
They're dead.
So there's like Loki, Heimdall, Gamora, which a lot of people are saying, oh, no big ones died. So Gamora isn't a big one. One of the main ones.
Gamora is a big one.
Yeah,
she's like one of the biggest.
Loki's not a big one. Like, come on.
Loki is a big one too. Yeah.
So I think these ones are possibly there's a chance they might end up staying dead. The ones that got deleted, Black Panther's coming back, Spider-Man's coming back. Come on,
obviously because they have movies.
Yeah, but I felt as though the movie had to end that way. 10 years in the making, and it was gonna be pretty much about Thanos, him getting the stones and why he's doing. At least for the movie version of why he's doing what he's doing.
I do feel like this is one of the issues with the movie. I don't know if you want me to bring it up yet.
Go ahead.
Okay. I feel like one of the issues with the movie is for a person that hasn't seen every movie.
Oh yeah, you're screwed. Yeah, you're not gonna understand.
I feel like there is a little bit too much that Marvel put on the fact that everybody knows like all the characters and what's happening and everything like that, where there's a little bit of that. I feel like if you were just a sort of a casual fan, like the ending of the movie would have thrown you off.
Honestly, I don't think you have to watch every movie.
I don't know if you have to watch every movie, but you have to watch at least specific ones.
Like I feel like you gotta watch the event. You gotta watch the movies where they team up. So Avengers, first Avengers, Age of Ultron, Civil War. I feel as though you probably have to watch Cap 1. Thor, you have to watch Thor: Dark World. Unfortunately, just because it's a stone
Guardians.
in there. You have to watch at least. You don't have to watch Guardians 2. You can watch just Guardians 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just like me saying, like, the end of the movie, I felt like the first and the second time, to a certain degree, I felt like the crowd was like, oh. Like, even, like, vocally actually saying, like, oh, like, that's how it ends? Like, I heard a couple people, like, around me say that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know there's going to be another movie.
Yeah, a lot of people don't really even know that this is, like, a part 1.
Yeah. So I will give you that. Especially, it's a lot to take in for someone that hasn't seen every single
Exactly.
single
Like,
movie,
that's
or they
the
don't
biggest
remember
flaw to
everything.
me. It's, like, there's so much to handle in the movie.
Yeah. One thing I did like that they did in the movie, they explain what the stones did. Some of them are self-explanatory, like Mind Stone, but still, people will probably wonder what they do. You know. Of course, the Infinity Gauntlet is a housing unit, pretty much, to allow you to use all the gems in together in combination. Yeah. That's what the Gauntlet was created for. They explain that as well.
But also then, like, on the opposite side of that flaw argument, it's like, I saw people reviewing the movie, like, I think it was like the New Yorker or something, like one of the newspapers. They were like, oh, this movie sucks because you have to watch other movies or something.
I don't understand that, because it's like saying Deathly Hallows Part 2. And I'm not a Harry Potter fan at all. But I know that Deathly Hallows Part 2 is the last movie. It's like saying, oh, this movie sucks because you have to watch the other ones. Well, no shit. No shit. Like, it's like the last Lord of the Rings. You got to watch the prior movies to understand
Especially
this
when
movie.
It's a ginormous team-up movie.
Yeah. Like,
it's not like it's Iron Man 3, for example.
Yeah.
Where if it's a singular character's like trilogy, then you can watch it without watching the other ones.
It reminds me of how they do the event comics. Okay, how they do event comics is you got your big event, but then you got like the stories leading up to it, and you got your tie-in stories. They treated these movies essentially how you would do a comic. I know people will get mad at me because I'm comparing it to the comic. Obviously, it's a separate thing, but the way the movies are structured, it's all connected, just like they were doing a comic line. It's exactly how they handled it. And you could tell a lot of people never picked up a comic, never read one, because that's essentially how they handle it. It's like going and reading, let's say you're reading Action Comics 900, which is a Superman comic. And I know I'm bringing DC in there. It's just like saying, oh, I don't understand what's going on. Well, no shit. You're not going to understand because you didn't read majority of the other comics or any other comic that's far into its issues. You're not going to read this comic and be able to understand everything that's going on without reading the ones that came before it in that particular line of comics. And that's essentially what this movie is. I would say.
Do you think besides that there are any other flaws?
Like I said, the humor was hit or miss. That I do agree kind of with Cap not being there as much. But for the most part,
that's a creative decision, though. You
can't
can't really say that's a flaw.
The people like Cap, that's probably one.
I know.
For the most part, no, not really.
I just think, overstuffed, a little bit too reliant on other movies, and then I think the last one would be maybe like the way it skipped around. Just like the flow of the movie at the beginning, I felt was a little choppy.
Yeah, and somehow they still you could tell at points where they did jump around, it just felt weird. But there were points where it completely made sense. Okay, because obviously it was going like, what are these characters doing? What is this character doing? Like, what are Tony and Peter doing? What's Thor doing? Oh, what is Cap and them doing?
Like at certain points, I think you kind of felt like, oh, I'm really into what's going on here, and then they would switch over.
Yeah. Something
else, and you're like, oh, okay.
It made sense why they do it, but it at times it did work. At times it didn't. Work.
And because they're so well prepared for this movie, and because they've set up all those other things, that's why they were able to get away with it so well. But I feel like in part 2, this is why the movie's going to be like even better. Yeah. I think because you have a smaller cast, It's more grounded, and you can just work off those characters. You don't have to be every which way in 3 different places to tell the story. Instead, you can be in one place with one team with characters we already know. You've seen part 1 already. You know who Thanos is. You know what's going on. That's why I feel like part 1's going to be, or part 2 is going to be even better.
Well, that's saying. I don't know, man. It's got a lot to live up with the way they did Thanos
part
so well.
Part 1 would be better for people is just because it's different from other superhero movies in the regards to that the villain actually
won.
wins.
He won, yeah. And I think that's what a lot of people have an issue with, like the villain won, like. But then you complain when it's the same old.
Yeah, and then you complain
winning.
that it's the same cookie cut plot.
This wasn't like in terms of the especially the MCU movies. This one's different. The story was about mainly the villain. You know, you saw the heroes. They didn't really explain much about them. Like I said,
you could have named it Thanos.
Yeah, and you see him pretty much get his way throughout the movie. He got his way throughout the movie. Usually, that's the place for a hero, where they get their place throughout they get their way for a good portion of the movie. No, the heroes had their backs against the wall, and of course got punched through it. But it was about Thanos because that was a character we haven't seen that much. So I don't get people like, maybe because it was a character they like died, so maybe they were kind of, because I know Black Panther, when he died, people were like, especially people don't of course don't know about the books and everything. They saw Black Panther die. I saw so many people like the hand over their mouth, like, oh
yeah. I bet some people just don't know are probably like, what?
Yeah, they assume that they're like permadead, like they don't.
Yeah,
they're not into it like we are, where we know about the sequels coming. Like I said, people. I know plenty of people that don't even know it's going to be a second Avengers movie, sequel to this one.
I do think that the Spider-Man death was really good.
Yeah, because out of all the people, everyone else just disappeared, and he was. I honestly like the dude Holland a little bit more after this movie. I'll be honest. I like him a little bit more. I like him a little bit more after this movie. And the problem was never him. And I said this in my video.
No, I said that too.
the problem was never him. It was like everything else.
Can we not talk about that movie?
Yeah. I'm just saying. But I have a little bit more respect for the way they're doing that character. It's different from the comics, and at this point, you just got to separate it. But it doesn't help the cast in that movie. I'll just say that. But
hey, your buddy was in it.
Oh my gosh, yeah, he was in it, wasn't he? Glad it wasn't for long. But out of all the characters you saw, like, he was Invisible Pain. He was Invisible Pain. It was like
and it was kind of like regret that he let down Iron Man.
Yeah, you can see it. Like, it was like, Mr. Stark, I don't want to die, and that's gonna add more to the next movie because he was kind of like. In the MCU, he's pretty much like son to Tony Stark. Mm-hmm. And so he's going to be broken up about it, and he's going to want to get.
That's why I feel like if they're going to do this, like if they're going to continue to do this whole like kind of father-son thing, they just need to do it all the way.
It seems like they've done it for the most part, and I think that's going to help out Tony in the next. He's going to be focused in this next one, just because. He saw all the people, that were helping him.
Plus, you have to remember to like the Age of Ultron, where he has those like visions of everybody else dying.
Yep, it's that definitely probably what it was. That was probably what he saw. Mm-hmm. That probably definitely what he saw. One thing, well, this of course leading up to what I think is gonna happen in the next movie. I think Shuri's gonna because. Did she disappear? I know most of the heirs to become king or queen of Wakanda.
I don't remember her even being on screen to disappear. So
yeah, I know. So they kind of yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, and in the comics, she briefly became Black Panther. Could happen. I had someone tell me that she was too young. Spider-Man's 15, flying out in space, fighting a guy who's
and you got a damn raccoon rabbit
like
fight.
So I think that could be a possibility of her becoming Black Panther, at least for the next movie. So that's one thing I haven't heard people talk about, but that's one thing I wanted to keep.
And I think that one of the biggest strengths of this movie is that it ended the movie without us knowing what the heck's going to happen next.
Yeah. So we know some characters are going to die.
We know the characters are we know that the heroes are going to win, but we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, we don't know the cost for that win.
Mm-hmm. Like, especially with all the contracts and no sequels coming up. Like, honestly, they could potentially kill everybody in the movie.
Yeah, they can kill, especially most of the original team.
Exactly.
Yeah, they can kill most of the original team. That was a big reason why they kind of...
It's like their last hurrah in a way.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. Like, okay, these guys, their contracts up. It's the last time we're probably going to see them all on the screen, at least for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
But of course, we talked about post credits. It's pretty much just showing Captain Marvel. She's gonna, of course, be there in Avengers 4. Mm-hmm. Her movie comes out earlier next year.
Yeah, there's 2 more movies before this movie. So there's Ant-Man and then there's Captain Marvel.
Yeah, and for Ant-Man, I think that's gonna be going on it's gonna, like, people are asking where it's gonna take place.
The same time, it has to.
It's gonna be it's gonna be going at the same time, and at the end, because he and Clint, who's Hawkeye, made a deal with the government because, of course, they were arrested in Civil War for working with Cap. They made a deal with the government, and I think what's going to happen at the end of Ant-Man, either Wasp or his family is going to disappear, which will add to his motivations why he's helping out the team. So I think that's the best way to do it. That's the best way to do it.
And Captain Marvel is set in the 90s.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it'll probably lead up to right when
Which would also be funny if we saw like a younger Tony, and like that would be funny. Like,
yeah. It's probably going to like lead up into like when Nick Fury calls her, which will go right into Avengers.
It will be exactly like the original Phase 1 movies, where at the end Nick Fury like comes to her or whatever.
Yep. But what do you give a rating for the movie?
Oh, I honestly still don't know. But if I had to like just say, I would probably say like a 9 out of 10.
You know, I probably gave it too high of a rating in my video, but after seeing it a second time, which I did go back and see it a second time earlier today, I probably agree with you on that 9. Where would I rank it? Ooh, I remember saying it was number 1.
It's in the top 3, I think. I don't know exactly where I would put it, but I think it's in the top 3.
I still have it below Winter Soldier. It's second to me.
See, like for my number 1, I flip on Avengers and Winter Soldier depending on the day.
Yeah.
So that's why I say one and one, like I say top 3. So I think it's in the top 3. To me, it's better than Civil War, which would be my number 4.
Yeah.
And Iron Man and Black Panther 5 and 6. So I think it's somewhere in the top 3, and maybe we'll see how the legacy of the movie grows, and we'll see if it gets to 1. But I think, like I said, I think the movie next year is going to be even better.
Yeah. Because I mean, looking on it, just
and you could honestly say that this movie, you can't rank it yet because it's part 1, basically.
I guess you can rank it based on what happened exactly, in the movie. It's like
the story is not done yet, so it's hard to like completely rank it.
I think it ranks high because, I mean, how many of the movies where the bad guy wins?
It's different.
It happens a lot in the comics, but in the movies, people just automatically heroes are gonna win. They're gonna somehow find a way to win at the
Where
end
would
of
you
this
put
movie.
Thanos in like greatest villains?
He's number 1 of the MCU.
MCU.
Yeah, for me, he's number 1. It'd be like him, then Loki, then like probably Killmonger after that. But yeah, to me, Josh Brolin, like they did a really good job. Did a really good job. But that does it for this video. Of course, go over to Mitch's channel. Bottom line is the Bottom Line View, right? I don't want to say
Bottom Line View. Yeah.
And of course, if you haven't already subscribed, please do that. Like this video, hit that thumbs up button. Peace.
Peace.